What's up, everybody? I'm going to try to use this time to explain finding the domain range increasing and decreasing for piecewise functions. This is going to be a problem on your test. So what I recommend is you can walk with me to do the first one, and after that you can pause the video and then try the last two by yourself, and then check your answers with what I'm writing. I've been doing math all day, so if I mess something up, please feel free to email me, let me know, and I'll try to correct it. But if you find a mistake, hopefully you know why it was my mistake or whatever. But let's begin. If I get a chance, I'll probably show you how to evaluate functions, but again, we'll review, 10 minutes before the test starts. But remember, you need to take the test, and we also have to finish writing 3.4. The assignment you need to turn in, so we need to allot time for that as well. All right, so we're gonna find these items in the order that we kind of learned them. So domain and range, we'll try to get those out of the way first. Remember that domain banks on reading the x-axis, while range banks on reading the y-axis and where the graph exists. Increasing and decreasing are specific parts of the graph that have to do with the domain. So in your domain, where is the graph increasing, right? And also in your domain, on which x values is your graph decreasing. So let's begin. For the domain, we scan from left to right. We scan from left to right, and our graph starts at this x value of -1, and it seems to end over here. So for the domain, if you read the graph, it starts from -1 bracket because it is a closed circle, and it goes all the way up to 3, right? And 3, if you can see, it's an open circle. So at 3, there's an open circle. So that's a parentheses. And we continue to go. If you notice, between 3 and 4, there's a gap. So we're going to union. And then we start back up at 4, and the graph continues to move on to the right, right? It keeps going to the right to infinity. And so that should be your domain. Your range, once again, we read bottom up, right? And so you ask yourself, hey, where does my graph start? It starts at -5, okay? It does not start at the circle. Oftentimes we look at the circle and think that's where it starts. No, -5, it's where it starts. So we have -5 bracket because it's part of the graph, right? There's no open circle at the bottom. And it goes up where? Well, it goes, my graph exists. So this is what I do. I'm like, does my graph exist there? Yes, it exists there. Yeah, there's something funny here, right? It stops here and it's funny. But if you notice, immediately to the right, this graph starts to exist as well. Even though it begins down here, we can prioritize this one until we get to this little open circle and understand that the graph hits immediately to the right, but continues to go up forever. So it continues to go up on the y-axis. So our range for that goes to infinity. For decreasing, now we're going to look at specific parts of the domain. So the question you're asking yourself, for what x values is my graph decreasing? And for what x values is my graph? So for what x values is my graph increasing? So let's start with increasing first. My graph begins to increase from this point here, down here. So from 0 on my x-axis all the way up to 3. So my graph, it increases from there. Yeah, so that is my first part of the increasing, from 0 to 3. Now, let me make this clear. As you're writing your increasing and decreasing parts, do not write brackets. Just keep it consistent at parentheses because the endpoints themselves don't matter. It's really the numbers in which the graph is increasing and decreasing that matters. Now, if you notice, that's not the only one. So we're going to hit it with a union, and your graph is also increasing between the x value of 5 right here all the way up to, obviously, infinity, right? Because this keeps going. So for 5 to infinity. Again, keep it in open, in parentheses. And that takes care of the increasing. Now, the decreasing, again, it's decreasing from this -1 value right here all the way up to this 0, 1 right here, right? So this little this little part right here. So that's from, whoops, that's from -1 to 0. It's decreasing. Union, because that's not the only place. If you look at it, it's decreasing from this x value right here from 4 to 5. Whoops. From 4 to 5. And that's it. That's all you do. Okay? Quick little refresher here. If somebody asks you what's f of 3, you know, f of 3, you ask yourself what's the output at 3? And if you look down here, it's an open circle, so that would be undefined, okay? Just to be safe, undefined. However, if somebody asked you what was f of, I don't know, let's just say 4, right? You ask yourself, well, what's my output at 4? My output of 4 is this little circle right here, which ends up being 2. Quick little refresher, because it's easy. Don't overthink it. You'll be okay. Let's continue on with the rest, yeah? This is where you want to pause the video and then come back, double check your answers with mine. Again, I might, mess one up, and if I do, just make sure that you know where I messed up and correct me if you want. So, let's get going here. Domain. Domain, it starts from -3, and I see that it's open circle, and it goes all the way up to 4, right? So right here, it exists from -3, and it goes all the way up to 4. That's where my graph exists. And is that the only one? Nope. If you notice, there's no output, no real output at 4, so we're gonna have to union it right there. So union, because 4 doesn't really exist, union 4 to, and it continues to exist all the way up to, if you see right here, all the way up to 7. So from 4 to 7, that is going to be our domain. Open circle, because everything's parentheses, because everything's open circle. Now range, again, we read from bottom up. So our graph starts here and ends here because, for now, right, because there's a gap between 3 and 4, because it doesn't start back up until 4. So we're going to do ranges from -4 all the way up to 3, and then union, and then there's a gap from 3 to 4, so union, and then it starts back up at 4 and goes all the way up to 6, right? It maxes out right here at 6, so careful with that. Decreasing, this one's a little easier because it's decreasing from this x value, sorry, this one right here, -3, and it's decreasing all the way up to 4. So from -3 to 4, right? It is decreasing, and then it's also decreasing from this little bit right here, which is from 4 to 5, it's decreasing, and then it's increasing only between 5 all the way up to the x value of 7. So it's increasing from 5 all the way up to 7 right here, right there. Again, we care about the x values. That's it. Last one. Let's make it happen. Last one, we're domain is coming from -infinity all the way up to 3. And again, at 3, there's 2 open circles, so we have to union that, okay? It doesn't continue to go on, because at 3, no x exists, because there's no output. So 3, comma, and it goes to infinity, basically. So our domain includes everything except 3, because as you can see, at 3, there's no true output, right? There's no true output. If one of these was closed circle, then our domain would have been from -infinity to infinity. But none of these are closed circles. So unfortunately, we have to omit that. Range, okay? Range, if you notice, yes, if we read from the bottom, it comes from -infinity for sure, right? But what's going on is we're going up, but then it hits here, right? And you might be like, well, do we stop there? And the answer to that is no, because this open circle leads to this one right here, or even this one. And so at the output of the output of 1, the output of 1 exists here, or it even exists here. So the fact that it's open doesn't matter. Now we keep going up, and then we're like, oh, wait, is there a missing output at 5? And the answer to that is yes, here there is. However, remember, there's an output at 5 right there that we can use. And so as a result, we can keep going up. So In this case, actually, there is no break. Your range is from negative infinity to infinity. Now, increasing, this is like increasing for the majority of time. So it increases, as you can see, from negative infinity, okay? But again, we care about our x values, so it's increasing, and do it in chunks. So it's coming from negative infinity, and it's increasing all the way up to this part right here, all the way up to 3. So from negative infinity to 3, union, right? Union, because at here, we don't care about the endpoints. Okay, so we'll call it a break right there, but it starts increasing right here again. And it starts at the x value of 4, and it keeps going on forever. And so we go from 4 to infinity for increasing. And then it decreases this little bit between 3 and 4. So it decreases between 3 and 4. And that's it. We're done. Again, if I mess anything up, let me know, but hopefully this helps. Pause the video whenever, go back, try these on your own, and it'll be okay.